Gabriel Guzmano, are we recording?
Are you
Thumbs
excited for your first Christmas married?
Ooh, first Merry Christmas.
I saw your tree.
No, it's gonna be dope.
Oh, like the splitting.
Me
of the
and
families.
Ashlee did, full jump in. Like in our dating and engagement, we independently celebrated with our own families. So us married, we're truly sharing holidays. Like me going over to her family's, her going over to mine. Are you doing that, game?
Yeah, well, her family doesn't celebrate Christmas. They're Christian, but they don't really celebrate Christmas.
They're those Christians.
Yeah. So years past, she just come to my house.
Oh,
Okay.
Anyway, on Christmas. But
Yeah,
this
that's like a
year,
new trend.
Yeah, this year on Christmas, her parents were like, "No, we want you at the house now." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh,
So,
got it.
we'll
but then you
figure
guys
it
are going to Idaho.
yeah.
Fine.
we're going
Good
to
for you
Idaho as
guys.
well.
That's going to be fun. Because it's going to be like cold there. So you guys get a Christmas experience.
Yeah. A winter Christmas.
Well, and by the
Winter
time people are
Christmas.
listening to this, Christmas has passed 3 days ago. So,
Sorry
amen.
about it.
Please don't. Okay.
I love it. Sing your heart out.
All
Do I
right.
have stuff
Well,
in my teeth?
before we jump into
Okay.
the little treat we have for everybody today, because we got New Year's coming up around the corner, and I thought it'd be great to talk about something in a second regarding relationships. So even if you're single today, watching this is going to be great. You're going to learn something from it. We'll get to that in a second because we literally just decided it 3 minutes ago before we hit record. So it's going to be fresh for all of us. I'll give it to you guys in a second. But if you watched our latest episode, we announced that we have a new partnership at Beyond I Do. So this podcast now has an incredible partnership with an incredible company, an incredible jeweler named By Barnett. And so what I'm going to share about with for a second is we shared about the last episode. I have a lot of years where I got to work in jewelry, and so I took pictures, and I also melted gold and set diamonds, and so I have a lot of history with jewelry and silver and gold and stuff like that. And so I got the privilege of designing Ashlee's wedding ring, and then I helped Nathan get my jeweler and kind of helped him get Sanaz's wedding ring is designed by a jeweler, not this jeweler, but just sharing. I helped my mom, just sharing that. We have a history in the jewelry kind of industry, or at least I do. And given that case, we always thought if we do a partnership with our podcast, we want to make sure that it's something that someone we trust, but also someone that we think would be good for our community. And so in this case, being that it's a jewelry designer and jewelry company, it works great for a relationship podcast because if you're single, you may be. You remember those single days, Nathan?
Yeah.
You used to buy yourself a lot. This necklace. This necklace might have been when you were single. You
It
bought
was.
that.
Wait,
Yes.
are you sure? I didn't buy you that?
You didn't buy him
no,
that.
this was not.
I didn't buy you that?
No, you did
Anyways,
not.
okay, moving on.
No, you did not.
You think
I
you
think
bought
I
it?
even knows
bought.
this.
I think I bought the.
You know
Yeah,
you did. You bought the cross, but
Thank
not the,
you.
Not the
Yeah,
feather.
but not the feather,
Not the-
and
or the
not the
chain.
chain, and not the chain. I know this. I was with Nathan when he
Where
bought
were
it.
you two single men?
Me and Nathan would actually go to David
yes,
Yerman.
Yes, all the time.
We couldn't afford gold back then, so we would go to David Yerman and we'd buy a bunch of silver jewelry. And so, we buy silver. Us girls bought silver back then. Okay. Now we're doing a little better, and sometimes we can buy silver, sometimes we can buy gold.
Okay,
It's a little
Still
mix,
wear it,
right?
yeah.
So that being said, Aaron Barnett is a really well-known jewelry designer in Los Angeles. He's a great guy. He has a private studio in downtown Los Angeles. And so I'm just excited that we could have this partnership. And so you may be single and you're like, oh, during the holidays, we're going to be having, because this is going to come New Year's, Valentine's Day is going to be fast approaching. So if you're single, you could buy yourself a little something nice to show yourself you appreciate yourself. Or you could be in a relationship, and so maybe you want to buy a nice necklace, or you're married and you want to give your spouse something on birthdays, holidays, all that stuff like that. Maybe you got some money from Christmas, and you're like, oh, I might want some jewelry. It's timeless. You could pass down to generations. It takes care of itself pretty easily. And so we thought it'd be a great partnership because it goes with relationships. People all the time are watching our podcast who are going to be getting engaged, who are dating. This is a great opportunity. I'm just telling you, if you go to the store, gold and diamonds, it's super expensive. So us offering a relationship where you can get legitimately anywhere between 10 to 30% off what it is, an engagement ring, wedding ring, any of that stuff. Aaron's going to hook you up. So the best way to do it is on our show notes. We have him attached. If you live anywhere in Southern California, if you are going to make you want to make a nice purchase that's going to take some investment, or you want a necklace or something like that, set an appointment. Go see in person. Tell him you're with Beyond I Do. Tell him you're with Pastor Adam. One or the other will work, and he'll take care of you. If you go to his website, which is by_Barnett, then if you see something, you can go to his DMs on Instagram and say, hey, I'm with Beyond I Do. What's the best price you could do for this? And he's going to give you an even better price that's listed on the website. But he has like 20 times more in his store than he does on the website, because he's always making new stuff. He could custom make stuff, and it's all 100% to anywhere between 10 to 24 karat gold. Any of you guys got anything else you want to share on that new partnership?
Yeah, Sanaz has a necklace on.
Yeah, well, wait a minute now. Ooh. If you're watching on YouTube right now, look at my hair. My husband actually just bought this for me.
Tell the story.
Why don't you tell the story?
Well, my wife, when this airs, she would have been.
No, she's gonna still be.
She's gonna still be.
This is next
on the weekend.
Yeah,
because this airs next Thursday.
Got it. So
in a few days, she's being ordained.
So my wife will be ordained at our New Year's Eve service,
whoop, whoop.
which I'm very excited
Wow.
for. So when I knew she was going to be ordained, I immediately knew I wanted to get her a sentimental piece of jewelry. So when Adam and I started talking about checking out this guy's shop, I knew exactly that it was the right time. So we went in, and I wanted a nice cross or some cross earrings or something like that. So I looked through a few chains, a few pieces, and I felt like that was the right one for her.
Gorgeous.
Amazing quality stuff. Again, great price, like Pastor Adam said. But yeah, for me, it was exactly what I wanted to represent.
And you got like
going into that
$300
season.
or $400 off of that necklace, which for jewelry
for sure.
is
knocked off the chain. Knocked off a couple hundred off the chain and a couple hundred off the diamond piece.
Yeah.
But I think like what you were saying, how you're believing for that right partnership. When we both were there, we're like, this is
We hit
what
it off.
represents Beyond I Do.
And you know what
hit
I
it
love?
off, for sure.
You know what I love about the idea of a partnership with a jeweler is that, you know, a lot of us, you know, sometimes people might say like, okay, that's a very expensive, you know, feat for us. But one of the things for us is we like quality things that don't depreciate. And so when you're talking about gold or precious metals or things like that, it's an investment, like you said, for something that's not going to depreciate like a lot of the things that we buy.
Yeah.
And it's very symbolic when you're talking about marriage, because you go into marriage and you want it to always keep or add the value that more so than on the day of the wedding day. You never want your marriage to depreciate.
Yeah.
So it's very symbolic, in my opinion. I was thinking about how perfect of a partnership it is to be with a jeweler, because you look at those precious metals, you take care of them, you polish them, you always, you know, anytime you have something that is of value and that won't depreciate or even appreciate, you always want to make sure that you take care of it. And when you take care of your marriage and you polish it and you make sure that it's clean and it's pure and all that stuff, come on now. Then, you know, it's just I think, a very thoughtful partnership to be talking about how this podcast is constantly polishing and making sure that marriages don't depreciate. It's the same thing with jewelry.
It's great.
Yeah.
And he even said, Nathan talked to him, and he's like, man, if you wanna, you know, make something fresh of your wife's wedding ring, he's like, I could take it, I could melt it down. We could take the gold, I could take the diamonds, reuse them, add new diamonds. So there's stuff that you could, if you have precious metals, you could bring gold or whatever and be like, oh, I want this, or this was my grandma's. Can we incorporate it? Can you melt it down to make I want to ask my girlfriend to marry me? He could do that kind of stuff. And for me, I never wanted to do a partnership where it was like, hey, partnership is just with this Christian company who has T-shirts or whatever, like, because we want to expose our community to certain great things. And so for me, this partnership wasn't something that you're going to go do an everyday purchase. These are special moments, and it's a relationship podcast. So we wanted it to make sense in the sense of like, this works well. And I want to be able to hook you guys up with the best prices available. And Aaron's going to be able to do that. Me and him talked about it for quite a while. We've been texting ever since then. And he was legitimately just like, man, I would love to just hook your community up, because the jewelry game is so expensive and it's popular right now. So people are really charging an arm and a leg for diamonds and gold, when it's as simple as a friendship that will say, oh, I could give you 30% off of that. Right. And that way you're not going to a big box retailer and having them kind of snake you out, and you not even knowing if it's quality. So, man, guys, go to the show notes. Go to our Instagram bio or anything like that. However, Chelsea and the team are going to put it, but you can go to Aaron Barnett stuff. All you have to do is first got to communicate with him either through his website or through his DMs. As this grows, if this grows into something, we're going to create an actual system around it. We may put a back end on his website or have our website, but we're going to create like a kind of like a cross collection with him, a beyond idea. We got, like, me and Aaron have been dreaming about like a little future of what we could do in terms of helping. I did 16 weddings this last year, and I had 60 requests to do weddings. So for me, if I can help each of those couples save $500, $600 from that engagement ring, from that wedding band, then I'm going to do that. Yeah. And for Aaron, the reason why he's doing it is because he's saying, because if you guys promote it, then I know where I'm cutting discount, more people are going to be coming. So I'm going to make it up in the long run, because you're recommending more people to come to me, which then that's where it makes sense for him. And he's excited about it.
Yeah,
he's, he was really pumped about it. I didn't even bring up the idea to him. He brought it up to me.
Right.
His assistant had seen our podcast before, who isn't even a Christian. It was like, I've seen one of your viral things. Your stuff is dope. And it's like, it just kind of kicked it off right there and stuff like that. So it's fun. So go check him out. You can check out his Instagram, anything like that. Well, let's jump into today. Outside of that, in the future, if we share about a partnership, it won't be as long. All right, here's what I thought we'd do. I came up with, I asked ChatGPT on the front end. Some of you guys know that I like doing that. I like to ask ChatGPT sometimes give it parameters, see what it comes with. And so I gave it parameters like, hey, we're Christians. What should every couple be talking about going into the new year? And I asked it to give me 8 questions. I don't know that I'm going to choose all 8, but it gave me 8 questions that every couple should.
And you told them we don't know. We have no idea what you're going to ask.
Yeah, I'm about to do that.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
So
love you. Obedience 2024.
Yeah. So I asked it, what are 8 questions? And then it gave me some really great questions. So then at first, some great questions.
I love you.
It's been a long day. I've had like meeting after meeting, and we got Christmas this weekend. So then at first I was like, okay, well then maybe we'll give tips for couples going into. And then I thought, no, as I was reading it, I was like, well, me and Ashlee haven't done this per se going into the new year, nor I think ever. We do it regularly, but we've never been like, okay, it's the new year, let's chat about blank. So I thought, why not we give ourselves live? We ask ourselves these questions live, and you, Nathan and Sanaz, process it together. Me and Ashlee process it together with all of us jumping in, but you see live how couples handle this conversation. So I don't know what Ashlee's going to say. She doesn't know what I'm going to say. I pitched it to them 2 minutes before this, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So they've only heard the first question. They don't know the rest of the questions, nor have we had any conversation with each other. But what we thought would be fun is to exhibit to people live who are maybe new in relationships or struggling in their relationship, or you're married and you haven't really ever had a history of great communication. Hopefully today we'll try to communicate so people could be like, okay, maybe we could do that moving forward. And if you're single, you could be like, oh, got it. That might be how you communicate certain things, because it's positive things, it's negative things. How can we better this? How can we do this? So we don't know what we're going to say to each other. Okay. So,
and for the next 5 hours, we're all going to be being like, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. But it is so fresh to us. So that's kind of exciting.
So we'll start with Nathan and Sanaz.
Oh, here we go.
Here's the first live relationship conversation.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Cue the music.
Here's the first question you guys are meant to discuss.
Okay.
What are your shared goals for the new year? And so now, you guys got to talk to each other.
Okay.
No one's in the room.
No one's in the room.
Yeah.
Shared goals.
Shared goals.
Would you like to start?
Shared goals. I want to
live process. This is live processing.
Okay. Well, I think one of them, which was kind of coming off of
Great start.
last year,
Yeah.
I will say, so I know she'll be in agreement with this, is so because we've done this the last couple years, and I would say we've been like 50-50, like successful, like actually keeping them
it.
before
Yeah.
us type thing. So, but we try to practice this. So I will say, so going into next year, I know this will be important for us. In the relationship, I tend to be the more private one, which you guys are
Yes.
aware of.
You're very
So
private.
it takes time for me to kind of put those walls down to build those relationships and open up my heart and my life and all that. So I'll say this. I know one of those shared goals probably going into next year is that we be intentional with pouring into a couple married couples.
Okay.
So identifying who those couples are that we bring into our world, that we can help, just whether it be doing life together, fellowshipping, or pouring into and mentoring, which you're easily more open to that than me, but I want to make a greater effort at making our relationship open to certain couples that we identify
already am
may
thinking of
need
couples.
that. You know, so that
I already
has
have
been
them in my head.
but I immediately fall back
Of
to my
course.
own, personality, and so we just don't keep that momentum. So I think that is definitely would be a shared goal.
Okay.
Going into next year and
Yeah.
truly being intentional in the season we're in
Yeah.
about that.
I think another one of our shared.
Do you agree with that, Sanaz?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree with it. I've always wanted to. He says that in a sense that it's more challenging for him to do
Yeah.
that. I'm always willing to, build those relationships and pour into other couples. But I also want to respect his boundaries and privacy and those types of things. Because I am an open book. We're very opposite in that way.
Yeah.
I'll share all of my dirt, and he's not that he's has anything to hide.
Hide,
It's
right.
just
He just grew
it's
up as a
more-
church kid
yeah,
and a PK, and so
he just
he's,
is more like
isolates a little more.
there are few people who earn the right to the inner beings of my life, and so. And that's for safety reasons because this is a high profile family, so it's just for those reasons. So I think another one of our goals, obviously being ordained on New Year's Eve, it's very symbolic of so now January 1st, that changes a lot of things when it comes to just the dynamic of my role at the church and what that looks like systematically with our family. So I think one of my shared goals would be that you and I are always at the forefront of the communication of making sure that nobody, you or me, feels like the family is not taken care of from me or from you, or that you have any resentment towards me because I'm working more. Or that I have resentment towards you because I feel like maybe I'm not seen with how much I work and do the home front, and being able to communicate that stuff before it gets to a place where now we're speaking out of
Right.
emotion as
Right.
opposed to team building and
Yeah.
having a plan. So
You're
how
dipping
that
into
looks
communication, though. Gotta hang in goals.
Okay. So the goal would be, I
Because
would
communication's
say,
going to
yes,
come.
yes,
That's the
yes.
question.
Okay.
Okay, so the goal would be that you and I could sit down, or maybe I would have a goal or a plan, I guess, of maybe once a month you and I going to dinner and having a conversation of where we feel like we are landing when it comes to our roles with the family and the church. That would be a goal I would have.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we do that? He doesn't mind. He loves going on a date night, but being able to, but it being a very purposeful moment.
Yeah, that's what I
where
mean.
we're-
That's what I mean. You guys go on date nights
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
all the
But with
time.
a little conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that.
We could do that.
Oh, thank you.
We could do that.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the whole reservation. There was no doubt of the calling on your life in terms of walking in a pastoral role. I think
Ooh, the spirit. Got goosebumps.
what my reservation was always, which you were aware of and I shared with people close in our life, was I know what the expectation is for a pastor here at Abundant Living. And so for me to now navigate what that would look like for you in walking in that calling as a pastor, but also knowing who you are as my wife and the mother to our children. And so navigating, making sure that I wouldn't be selfish to hold you back from walking in that calling because I felt the others were more important. And so through conversation and obviously the right timing, we've talked through that. And so I think it definitely is important going into next year because I don't want to revert to any of those past feelings where I hinder or harbor you from walking truly in the calling in a role as a pastor within this organization, because God's calling you and appointing you. I'm just here to support and confirm you.
And I think it's fair. And I think it's fair to know that going into next year, there will be moments where I will be, absolutely overwhelmed because so many things are happening at one time.
Sure.
And being able to then have a game plan of, okay, Sanaz needs a little bit of help. Who can we call to help with the kids? How can, you've done a great job this year of saying, okay, now with you being in the office at 8:00 in the morning, I'm going to take the morning routine with the boys so that you can work out because that's important to you. And it takes a huge load off of me because I don't feel like I'm carrying so much with working and the home front. So, I mean, I think we're doing a really good job at creating that space. I haven't had any complaints about that. There will be moments that will be overwhelming just to be able to have that once a month where we can have that and hash that out before it gets to a place that's emotional.
Yeah.
And I would say lastly, we have a shared goal when it comes to our kids.
For dinner.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
bring
that back.
We're
gonna really start it.
We're gonna really start it.
Bring it back. I mean, start it.
We created
I was
anybody
there
who's
one
kids.
day when we talked about it. I was there.
We were.
It became a little thing.
Yeah, we our kids are, to anybody who has school-age kids, you understand, our kids are starving at 4:00, and then with sports and this and that, and we got to eat before we go to sports. And so sometimes the kids eat dinner alone and then we eat dinner alone. And we just want to be really intentional with, the four of us are eating together, and then that dinner table conversation is very intentional.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we are going to do.
Is this
great.
like every day, or you have a goal?
We were going to
No.
say, what was it?
We
We
said
said 3 days.
3 days a week.
Yeah.
Oh, 3
It's
days
just
a week.
not practical sometimes.
Every day?
No.
I was like,
I'm not eating with my kids 7 days a week. Are you kidding me?
I'm not going to pretend. No. We had talked about, 3 days.
Well, because Wednesdays we work.
And typically one day's over the
yeah.
weekend, which is typically at a restaurant that we go out, but definitely 2 days during the week at home in our environment.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% on board.
So those are
And agree.
3 shared goals to start
Yeah.
with. I mean, we can keep going, but
For
I mean,
sure.
we
Those
want to
are
get
like
going.
like that.
solid.
That's good.
Yeah, so we get some other ones. Ashley, would you like to go first?
Oh gosh, no.
Okay, I can go. I got some.
Well, that's the
something?
question.
Okay.
Same question?
Oh,
Oh,
same
same
question.
question.
Same question. Okay.
Welcome to the podcast.
No, she thought maybe you were going to do like one question for us.
Oh,
and
like
one-
back and forth.
What do you guys want to do? Do you want to do that?
No, we want to hear your shared goals.
Do we?
I think mine will be fast. My suggested shared goals.
Okay. Let me see.
I think they'll be fast.
See if I want to
I'm
receive
going to see
it.
if you're on the
Let's see.
same page.
See if I want it.
Here's the first one. The only day you and I are off at the same time together is Mondays. So we kind of know that a little bit. Is you tend to want to rip and run on a Monday. I want to rest on a Monday.
Always.
So we're trying to lock in where we get a little more time on Mondays to spend together
Okay.
on our days off. To
Put your
like,
hand down.
hang out. Yeah. So we need to be a little more intentional with not necessarily planning our Mondays, but talking about what's happening on Monday, because you just know what I'm doing every Monday, which I'm resting. I preached all
Laying on the
weekend.
couch.
I'm laying on the couch. I have to rest. If I don't, I
Yeah.
pay for it later on.
Yeah.
And so I have to. It's not that
Right.
before I was in this role that I never rest on Mondays. I
Right.
go play golf, hang out with friends, you and I would go a movie. But then now it's like I'm literally like, your back hurts, your voice, your throat hurts, your
Right.
everything. You're mentally exhausted. All you want to do is
Right.
watch, something dumb on TV that defragments all the
Right.
counseling you did and all this stuff like that. So, trying to find the balance between doing a little bit of nothing, but also then being intentional about something like hitting lunch together or whatever.
Yeah.
And some days you and I will we'll meet. You'll be like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'll meet you for lunch.
Yeah.
But just kind of put more of more of a
Emphasis.
system around that.
Yeah, and I'll say
yeah.
I'll kind of answer why that happens, because I'm sure there's a lot of, and it could be an excuse because I'm hearing what you're saying, because Mondays are our off days and the kids are at school, so I try to get the most done while they're at school. So it's either, I'm taking the clothes, doing laundry, cleaning the house, organizing their stuff, putting stuff away, or I go out and do the errands for that day. So it's just making time with, obviously, in the next year, realizing that going back, because that used to be non-negotiable, was the Mondays we don't touch for, obviously, staff reasoning and just making sure that you get your rest, but then also realizing that it has to happen just in the busy season that we are going into, that I have to be more intentional on making sure that I am resting with you as well.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think too, it would be healthy for me because I could just sit down. Because I remember a couple days ago we did that together, and I was like, "This is nice. I don't want to do nothing." And I hadn't done it in a minute, and I didn't stop and get up. I'll go do something, put dishes away or something. So it's shutting it down, turning my brain off in the sense, and then just having the time, whatever we decide to do. But yes, most definitely, I will set that as a goal for myself to shut it off on Mondays. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Look at us.
It kind of goes in the
Look at
same
us.
theme. It's that within next year in the summer, I'm gonna take time off to, I've sacrificed a lot for the family to operate in the role that I'm in. So I'm taking time off next year. Nathan had that. I don't know, last year or was it this year? Last year.
Last
Yeah,
fall.
last year. You took how many? You got your first sabbatical, 15 years in full-time ministry. Took a few months off. So I'm doing that now, my 13th or 14th year in ministry, but so that I come back to the church fresh and ready. So being really intentional for those, 60 days that we disconnect, that we have intentions around it with giving the kids great experiences. And because right now it's like they got sports or whatever. It's like I'm running to Matthias's game the last 10 minutes. I'm shooting in the car to go back to church to preach or whatever. So for that 60 days, just at least for their memory to be like, man, before dad started that role, like that, and they're still young, but Matthias will be able to remember.
for
He'll
sure.
be able to say, I remember when dad, we just like, I joked on the last podcast, like we go to Mexico, we'll drive a car to Santa Barbara, we just goof off. And they just they'll remember that as like a cool memory of and again, I probably won't do something like that again for another 15 years.
Yeah.
So in terms of that much time off, so it's going to be a nice time to be able to do that with them. And so us just be very like not like do it and then just like go into a rhythm, but more so be like really intentional of creating family memories, doing fun stuff together, all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
That goes into the rest thing.
Yeah.
Right. So
No, that's good. That's really good. I would say a goal for us would be more of a goal for me to alleviate from you is not taking on a lot, because you guys all know that I'm just the doer and I'll do and then I will complain
Yeah.
and be tired and
Right.
overworked and overstressed.
And bring him in
And-
on.
yes.
That's what she'll famously
unnecessary-
do. She'll be like, hey, so something was going on at the church. I volunteered myself. So you need to pick up from the kids from school and then
Yes.
you got to watch them tonight. And I'll be like, I got to study for a sermon this weekend.
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally can't do that. We're going to have to call my mom, your mom. Like somebody's going to have to help us.
Yeah.
Because I can't. And I'll be like, why'd you volunteer yourself? And you'd be like, oh, I just wanted to help, which was nice,
Yes.
but it didn't help me.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah,
boundaries. Yeah.
Boundaries.
So,
Yeah.
so setting the boundaries this year, realizing the role that you are going into, it would be a goal of mine and ours to where we can even have that healthy communication to where to be like, hey, this is something that's big and I really feel like my eyes should be on it, and finding leadership through you saying yes or no, or saying like, hey, I am free. And because most of the times when it comes to the church, I don't ask you nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
So, that would be my goal for next year, is to be more intentional with just my time and people taking my mind to that, thinking that they need my time.
Yeah.
And me thinking that they need me when nobody needs me.
Yeah. Yeah. And not people that do need you, but you more so are meaning like stuff you're inserting yourself
Like
into.
stuff. bringing
Exactly.
you into-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, next one. How can you guys improve communication with each other in the new year? Depending on how this answers, we'll do one or two more. Okay.
How do we improve communication?
Time's flying.
I mean, we kind of talked. That was kind of in the first question of
Okay.
us just being able to just be ahead of it. You know, that's something that we learned from you guys of how you would go out to dinner, neutral ground before anything, you know, really got hot. You would have a
Right, and
conversation
address
about it.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I feel very safe talking to my husband about where I feel like he is, or where I feel like I'm not getting enough. It wasn't always that way. There were moments in our marriage where I didn't, not that I didn't feel safe asking him, but I just maybe didn't care for the
didn't
response.
know how I was gonna respond.
And it wasn't worth it if the response wasn't going to be what I
Favorable,
needed in
yeah.
that moment.
Right.
But we have worked on it so much that I now feel like I'm in a place where at any time I could say, "Hey, I need this from you." And one of the things that I learned is that my husband will not respond right away. He's as you could see, he's somebody who's methodical. He thinks, he evaluates, he processes, and I'm an
He's a little
emotional.
bit anal too.
Yeah, and I'm emotional, so my response is always emotional.
Slightly has OCD as well.
And I used to get upset because I would be spilling my heart out for him and he wouldn't say anything. And then
Yeah.
I would feel like he wasn't listening. But then the next day, because he would just be processing,
Yeah.
the next day he would do something that showed me that he was listening to me. And I have learned that I don't have to necessarily get a response immediately. I have to just allow him to show me that he listened, which is way more
Yeah.
better than him just being like, "Okay, I'll be better."
Yeah.
So,
and then nothing. And then
Nothing
nothing
good of
happened.
it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I feel we do overall we communicate very well.
I think so.
I think like when we go to dinner alone, we're intentional in that sense. Just thinking about how do we improve communication going into next year. I mean, you guys, we obviously spend so much time together. I just think like there just comes to a point where you have to make a greater intention with putting this down. I know it's so cliche to say, but like,
but it's true. It's
we
true.
were just talking about it the other night. Like we sit in bed and we'll stare
Yeah.
at this for an hour and without literally looking over at each other.
While you're texting
She's
each other,
closer to
sending
me
each other
while we're
TikToks and stuff. That's
texting.
us.
There's one thing to your communication with friends or family type thing, but I think that's where not so much like on dinners or anything like that, but I think just our intentionality to be present more in the evening specifically. Like after the kids go to bed, and use that time to.
It's a lot of wasted
Yeah, it's
time
just a lot of-
that we're
yeah.
just tired and we want to go to bed and we want our brains to shut off, and so we shut our brains off. But we shut our brains off from each other, and
Yeah.
so we just
And
we need
that's
to be
not
more.
fair.
Well, let me ask you guys, because you guys are our accountability. What would you say that would help?
Don't ask that.
No, I mean,
No.
this is why you have accountability. What would you suggest for us, for the two of us to communicate better with one another?
Oh my goodness.
If you don't have an answer, you don't have an answer.
quickly.
But
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a fast answer. I don't think. The problem is, and I think in all of our cases, is between us four and Aaron and Erica, we're all in group text together. We've been spending a lot of intentional time together. It's very hard for any of us to get away with much of anything.
Anything.
Sure,
That's
sure.
like
someone's aware of something.
Something.
that's part of the blessing and the curse
Yeah.
of really doing intentional community together. And so
Yeah, because we're all nosy. Because even like a prime example is like Sanaz and I were talking at the middle. I think it was the middle of this year, and talking even about you taking Ezra to swim class, and I was like, "Do you only take him to swim class?" And you're like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I've communicated to Nathan, and he works during that time." And I was like, Then I walk in Nathan's office and I go, "Are you going to Ezra's swim practice today?" And he's like, "How did you know he had practice today?" And I was like, "Oh, I just had a conversation with your wife. Are you going to go?" And he looks at me and I look back at him and he's like, "I can get off early." I was like, "Okay, that's what I thought." So we
Right.
communicate
Probably
for
best.
each other
Right.
as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have those hard conversations, because sometimes, like we say, like we've had that before, how you guys have been our accountability.
Yeah.
You'll have a conversation with him about me. to where I don't even have to have the conversation with him
Certainly.
because you're holding him accountable to how you should be upholding your wife or handling a situation.
Right.
So,
and because you love each other, we love each other.
yeah.
And
We're,
then even
it's
in the
never
community,
ever,
Yeah.
You could begin to make those changes, begin to have that fruit, and then it's like a big fight doesn't even have to happen now because one's willing to self-reflect.
Well, it's as simple as like recently, Erica in our text, it's the next morning and she's like, just question everyone. Is it weird to blank, blank, blank? And then, and then everyone starts talking like, why do you ask? It's like, well, because we got in a fight last night and Aaron thinks that it, and then you kind of
started a whole conversation, and it was a healthy and very peaceful conversation. But it was nice to just, not shut the entire world out, but it go into a safe place with other trusted marriages that you look up to, and just say, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Give us different perspective. We're not the only two people here, so yeah.
And how does that start? It, on our sense, we're me and Nathan are brothers, so that can be a little bit more obvious for people. But in a sense for us, like with Heron and Cass, which are another one of our great friends, or Eddie and Nicole, or Aaron and Erica, which those are the ones, right? Aaron and Erica are the ones we pretty much are talking to daily. Is it starts off very small with just like, if I think back with Aaron and Erica, it was just me and you talking and like, man, we like Aaron personally as like a friend. He's really dope. Like we should go out to dinner with them sometime, and it was as simple as going to dinner. And we went to dinner and we're like, maybe we should plan another dinner. And then after 4 or 5, 6 dinners over the span of 9 months, you're like, oh, we should do like a 3-day getaway with our with the couples, and you slowly start building that trust and that relationship where now we do most of a lot of our family vacations together, and we do a lot of stuff. We do at least once a week something with our families, and we do date nights together, and so it grew over years at this point.
Sure.
You're talking about probably over 3 or 4 years. So just encouraging anyone who's like, well, must be nice.
Yeah.
I don't have
How do I
that.
find
Well,
that?
it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a really long period of time, and even ours to our frequency, like it was always good, but then as we had kids, it got greater because then our kids are doing stuff together, and then they play with each other. When then we get to just kind of, you like, oh man, are you guys stressed? We're stressed. You guys want to hang out so our kids could do something together, and then they can keep each other
We just
company, so we can all
relax.
just hang out. It's like, oh yeah, let's do that. So, yeah, I mean that's where I would say it'd be harder for us to answer some of these things because you really don't get away much when you see each other, when you see other believers who are trying to do what you're doing very well, and we have had other friends that we have brought into our lives who we loved and got along with, and they were amazing, and we laughed, and we had so many similarities. The only problem was they didn't want the outcome for their marriage that we wanted.
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because when stuff like this would get brought up, they would choose their flesh, they would choose selfishness, they would choose they would start to divide boundaries to say, hey, you're welcome in my life up until this point.
Right.
Up till this, I get embarrassed.
Right.
And so I don't want you guys speaking. And then you just
I
end
don't
up
want
going,
you telling your husband things.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
yeah, they're just,
Don't have
you
your
know,
wife talk to
Do
my wife.
Yeah.
yeah, about certain things. So then that's where you just go, great, I love you. I have an incredible time around you, but as far as what I'm trying to invest in and I'm trying to do for my relationship, you don't necessarily want the same outcome. And so the relationship's going to have to look different.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Aaron and Cass, Aaron and Erica are not the only couples that we have done trips with or gone to dinner nights with. And it's just they don't always last, not because we didn't like them or they weren't Christian.
Yeah.
It just they didn't desire that same outcome, and we want it because it's uncomfortable, but we're healthier. Like for me, like I've always said, like when I can come home and like know that my wife is not going to get on me, which is a common, fear for many men. Like, man, I don't want to go home.
Yeah, when am I going to walk home?
If I go home, or I'm just going to sit in the driveway and just get ready to walk in and just get blasted. And for the wife to go, I don't want to go. I don't want to even be home, or I'm here with the kids, because when he comes in, he's going to pull out my worst side. It goes both ways. So for me, the outcome I've always wanted is I want to know when I'm in my home, I'm in a real sanctuary, rather than like some people hate being in their house,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because the relationship is not healthy. And so for me, I was always like, I'm willing to do the heavy work on the front end, the uncomfortable work on the front end, which is to do life with people, make sure we're being counseled, make sure my wife can make sure, you know, the people closest to us don't view Adam as a perfect person, but know the ugly sides to him, so that we're healthiest when we're at home, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like I could come home and, I know I know 9 times out of 10 we're not going to argue, which is
Right.
a great feeling to have.
Right.
To be at home and know that you're not going to go at it with your spouse.
Yeah.
Right.
Because most couples we counsel and know they're arguing
Yeah.
4 to 6 times a week, and that's maybe a nice way of putting it. They're probably arguing
Right.
4 to 6 times a day.
Yeah.
For some of them, you know.
And I like that safe space that you said, because it's even like you guys, I'm sure the guys have your guys' group message, us girls have our group message. And like you said, it for us to have these conversations with godly women, with women that we believe that they want the success out of not only my marriage, but the success out of their marriage, we can bring anything to the table. And there's nothing like it's like the whole, you're naked before your spouse.
Sure.
Like I'm naked before Sanaz, in the sense
Yeah.
of like, you can read all my mail, you can know everything about me, you can know what we argued about this morning, what's starting to get on my nerves, and how can I de-escalate this, or how could I be a better wife maybe, and what am I not seeing that you may see from the outside? Because it's crazy, a lot of people see a lot more from the outside looking in. So if I'm not seeing the bigger picture, maybe someone else like Sanaz or Erica can see truly really what's going on. Well, Ashlee, are you just overwhelmed
Right.
with life right now? Are
Yeah.
you we've had that conversation recently. I told her, I said, I am tired.
Yeah.
And I know my husband's tired. I'm tired for many different reasons than
Yeah.
he's tired.
Yeah.
And it's hard to honestly, in that season, in that moment, it was hard to communicate that to him, because I know he's tired too. So it was me being able to, did you just say amen, Rooster?
Yeah,
I know.
Rooster.
Some tough guy.
Give it to my sisters in Christ to say,
Right.
no, I am tired,
Yeah.
weeping, crying. Like, I'm exhausted.
For sure.
Because giving it to my husband, and it was a release. And then they can hear me out, and they're saying, well, you need to take a time. How can I help you with the kids?
Right.
What is that? What can I do? What release can I give? Are you putting too much on your plate?
Yeah.
What stress are you putting that's not there? What expectation are you putting that's not there? Is it something that's from your husband? Is that something that we need to talk about? Or is this Ashlee feeling her weight? So that's something we communicated with. So that
Right.
was healthy for us, that we can communicate that as sisters in Christ, as friends, to where it's also too not a burden for him, because I'm sure he's going to you telling you, Nathan, I'm tired. And it's not that we're tired with each other, it's the
Yeah,
surrounding, it's everything
yeah.
else. And so, and this expectation that we probably put on ourselves, not on each other. So it's truly healthy to say, having that good community to where they're never pointing the finger at him. They're pointing the finger at nobody, but trying to resolve and communicate
Right.
in a healthy way
Sure.
to make me better. Because at the end of the day, they're not concerned about Adam. They're concerned about Ashlee in that moment. So it's the whole, like we talk about how get friends that want your marriage to win, not just
That's
you.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's all about, get people around you who are for your marriage.
yeah.
Because you could have friends who, for whatever reason, because, they're growing through something, or they have just a spirit of jealousy or whatever it is.
Or bad experience,
Or bad
with a
experience.
marriage before, and so they just think
And
every
so
marriage is like that.
and as soon as you bring something to the table, they immediately go negative, and they're not in a place where they're like, okay, what is it that can resolve this? That's not their first thing. Their first thing is like, vent all you like. You don't like him. I don't like him either. And this
Yeah.
and in the moment, that might sound really great, but it's not fruitful.
No.
And so if you have people around you who want your marriage to win and will help you win, as much as you're willing to help you win, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have a place where you feel like you could talk through things, but the conversation will not end until it's like, okay, so how can we resolve this? How can we fix this? What can we as your community, like you said, what can we take off of your plate? What can you take off of your plate? What can you say to make your husband understand what you're feeling?
Right.
Do we all need to be there so that both of you
Right.
are protected in the moment?
Right.
And would that be something that would benefit you, or do you want to have that conversation alone? All of that stuff. But to have a community around it, honestly, for us, it's probably been a game changer. I wouldn't even know marriage any other way, because we've always had you guys, and we've always had the community of people who are for our marriage. So we have never been in a place where our marriage has been on the brink of danger.
Yeah.
So we've never been there. We've always said our marriage is solid, but it's solid because we have always been able to bounce our ideas off of people who want our marriage to win.
Right.
And that's it. And so they will do anything to resolve the marriage. You guys will always get in and say, okay, what are we going to do to resolve this? And that has been an absolute, that's been the saving grace of our marriage.
All right, we'll close it down. If people would like some type part 2 to this, let us know.
I know, we got through 1.5 questions.
One question.
1.5 questions. There were 7 others.
Wow.
But I could re-ask it in a more unique way now that we've done it. I could be like, okay, I know what I would ask it moving forward. So yeah, guys, if you enjoy that part 2, here's what I would say, because this would land, like, say you're dating someone. Here's where I would say non-biblical dating with the intent for marriage does not work well, because you could not answer these questions unless you had intentionally around dating. So, because I know what's going to happen for this. Someone's going to comment and say, could I do this with my boyfriend or girlfriend? The reality is you could, if he was willing to lead and you were willing to discuss and you guys had a plan for your relationship, you could do that. If you didn't, and you're just like, oh, we're flying by the seat of our pants. We're
Too much gray area.
We're just,
Right,
there's no
right.
way you could answer that. If you go, how do we have shared goals? What, I don't know. You're doing, you're in school. I'm doing this.
Sure.
But if it's like, oh, we're for dating. How do we share our goals? Well, when me and Ashlee would talk about that, not with this language, but when we were dating, it was like, okay, what would you like to do? She was saying, I'd like to do my master's. I'm saying, okay, well, if everything goes well for us, this is what this would look like. We may be married before you finish your master's. Are you okay with that? Well, I might be, and blah, 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 blah. Gabe and Cynthia had that conversation when she was working to be a nurse. Me and Gabe talked. He was like, I think we got to be engaged for 2 years, not 1 year, because we really want her to finish a certain portion of school, focus on that. And then Gabe's like asking me as like his mentor, is that weird to have a 2-year engagement? I'm like, listen, bro, nothing is weird if you both can understand it, articulate it, and there's a goal behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not weird. 3-year engagement. Now, going into 4, that might be, a little, but like if there's a reason for her, it was like, because we want her to finish nursing school. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a goal. So to
Right.
me, when you talk about that, but if you're just like, we don't have shared goals. We just like making out in the back seat of the Honda Civic, and I like to have someone to do
Yeah.
something
Well,
on a
not only
Friday
that-
night. I like you to buy me bears on Valentine's Day, and I buy you shoes on your birthday, even though we learned last podcast that's not allowed. But if there's no intention around dating, you can't have any true constructive conversations like we just had.
And the truth of that is that any of your goals are purely selfish.
Oh,
For sure.
Every goal that you just listed is a me. This is what I want to do in life. Whereas if you listen to any of our shared goals, it was all about building a strong biblical marriage that represented the black and white marriage that is in the Bible. And so, because we know that that's the right thing, it's so easy, even when you're talking about communication and community, it's easy to counsel people when you have a biblical stance, because you don't, there's not
It's
going
not
to be,
your
there's
opinion,
no one's,
it's-
and no one's going
it's
to
the
combat
word.
that, because
Yeah.
that's what the word
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I 100% agree with you. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to have these shared goals, this type of communication, if they do not have a biblical stance to stand on, because it's all going to be way too gray. It's going to be all hearsay. It's going to be all opinion, and you can disagree, but you can't necessarily disagree if one person is coming and saying, this is what marriage is supposed to look like according to the word. The other person can be like, but I don't like that.
Yeah. That's
Well,
not
then,
right.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Well, and I think like
Yeah.
what you said is in he, whether you're dating or married, obviously that he's willing to lead it.
Right,
You know, because
right.
in a conversation like this, obviously we were on one accord, so were you guys,
Yeah.
you know, so, but it's now up to me to process. My personality is I'm going to go home and process everything we talked about, but
Same,
it's for me now to say.
He's going to
hey,
have a
this is what-
PowerPoint
this
presentation
is
on
what we
how we're
talked
going to
about.
be able
So
to.
this is what we talked about. So what days do we really want
Yeah.
to sit down with
Sure.
the kids? We talked about this.
Yeah.
So like how many nights are we committing to no phones? Like
Right.
that's if I want to see that fruit,
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
share
and
from
then
my
if
heart
they're
and your heart.
dating, they're gonna be like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I'm
For
not gonna
sure.
do that.
For
Like,
sure.
if the dating, the male was like,
What
hey,
do
I
I-
need our Mondays are non-negotiable. It should be like, girl, I got brunch.
Listen,
with
you
my
can't
girls.
control me.
Bye.
I'm an independent woman.
Right, I'm going to
Don't do that.
brunch.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
no, that's really good. It's really
Yeah.
good, Pastor.
So thank you so
Great-
much.
great
Thanks,
idea.
thanks, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
AI for the
AI's
win
been-
once
yeah,
again.
I feel like going to buy some jewelry now.
right? Well, no, buy some.
Go get
There we go.
that partnership.
I already got my piece. I'm good.
Yeah, it's all in
now.
the show notes. Tell them Beyond I Do sent you, and you'll be taken care of. It's Valentine's Day's coming
Password
up.
Beyond
And
I
listen,
Do.
listen. If you go
coming.
do your conversation with your spouse, and they're just like, I think you need to value
Shared
me, you
goals
value
and
you,
more jewelry.
you need to value me a little bit more. Whatever. Be like, all right, Valentine's Day, I'm a.
Got you.
I'm
I
put a
got
little-
you, girl.
Put a little pendant around your neck, a little cross.
My
My
initials.
initial.
This necklace is not going to
put a little-
depreciate, and neither is our
Put a little
marriage.
brand on you. Put my brand on you.
We are down.
Wait a minute.
All right, everybody.
God bless.
Thanks for joining. Peace.
Blessings.